Narcissism in criminal psychology. Narcissism plays a significant role in criminal psychology, as narcissistic personality traits are often associated with antisocial behavior, manipulation, and the lack of empathy. Narcissists can be both perpetrators and victims in criminal psychology scenarios, and understanding the different degrees of narcissism is crucial for the analysis and treatment of offenses. The different degrees of narcissism. Narcissism is usually divided into different degrees that reflect different behaviors and personality traits. These degrees can be easily categorized as follows. Narcissism, A Deep Understanding by Gabriela Gripseiberf, criminal, narrated by Leo Hawthorne. Welcome to Narcissism, A Deep Understanding, written by Gabriela Gripseiberf, criminal. In this audiobook, we dive into the complex world of narcissism, a concept that goes beyond mere self-love and is deeply rooted in our psychology. In the coming chapters, we will explore the different facets of this personality dynamic. We shed light on the causes, characteristics, and effects of narcissism in our daily lives, both for those affected and for those around them. We will understand the differences between healthy self-esteem and narcissistic behavior and deal with the challenges that arise in relationships with narcissistic personalities. Through immersive case studies and in-depth psychological insights, we invite you to gain a new perspective on the topic of narcissism. Listen and reflect as we work together to reveal the intricate motivations behind narcissistic behavior and find ways to build healthier relationships. Let's get started. The different stages and degrees of narcissism. Narcissism is a psychological concept that encompasses a variety of behaviors and personality traits. It is often described as an overvaluation of oneself and a lack of empathy towards others. It is important to note that narcissism does not only occur in extreme forms, but has different stages and degrees. These can vary from healthy, positive characteristics to clinically significant disorders. Stages and degrees of narcissism. 1. Healthy narcissism. Healthy narcissism is a normal and necessary trait for personal development. People with healthy narcissism have adequate self-esteem and a positive self-image. They are able to celebrate their own successes and show self-confidence while also feeling empathy for others. This type of narcissism allows people to articulate their needs and pursue goals. 2. Clinical narcissism. Clinical narcissism refers to the pathology associated with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. This disorder is characterized by a profound pattern of magnificence and a distinct need for admiration. Individuals with NPD often show a lack of empathy and tend to engage in opinionated and manipulative behavior. Diagnosis is made based on specific criteria listed in the DSM-5. 3. Grandiose narcissism. People with grandiose narcissism have an exaggerated self-image and feel superior to others. They actively seek validation and admiration and are often arrogant. Their behavior is often self-centered, and they have difficulty considering the needs and feelings of others. 4. Vulnerable narcissism. In contrast to grandiose narcissism, people with vulnerable narcissistic traits have unstable self-esteem. They are often sensitive to criticism and rejection, but they also exhibit narcissistic behaviors as a defense mechanism. These individuals may be emotionally reactive and have a need for special treatment, while hiding insecurities and fears. 5. Cultural and group narcissism. This form of narcissism refers to an excessive appreciation of one's own group or culture. People who act narcissistically in this way tend to feel they belong to their group and often criticize other cultures and groups. This can lead to prejudice and conflict. Nazi traits. When someone is described as narcissistic, it often means that the person exhibits certain traits or behaviors that are associated with narcissism, but do not necessarily have complete narcissistic personality disorder. Characteristics of narcissistic traits can be excessive need for attention and validation, low empathy or understanding of the feelings of others, tendency to manipulate or control others, overvaluing one's own abilities or successes, tendency to consider oneself special or unique, It is important to differentiate between narcissistic traits and an actual personality disorder. While narcissistic traits can occur in varying degrees in many people, people with diagnosable NPD often need professional help to change their behavioral patterns and improve their interpersonal relationships. Narcissism is a complex psychological concept with different levels and manifestations. While healthy narcissism can promote positive traits, exaggerated or pathological forms can have significant negative effects on interpersonal relationships. When people talk about narcissistic traits, they often refer to specific behaviors that do not necessarily indicate a clinical disorder. Awareness of the different degrees of narcissism can help to better understand the behavior of others and to find appropriate reactions. Introduction. Narcissism is a multi-layered psychological concept that describes a variety of behaviors and personality traits that affect an individual's self-esteem and relationship dynamics. Originally borrowed from Greek mythology, where Narcissus was in love with his own reflection, the term now refers to both healthy and pathological self-centeredness. In modern psychology, narcissism is often divided into two main categories: healthy narcissism, which is considered necessary for personal well-being and development, and clinical narcissism, which is considered in the context of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, and has serious implications for interpersonal relationships. This distinction is crucial to understand narcissistic traits in different contexts and to analyze their influence on people's behavior and social interactions. In this thesis, the different levels and degrees of narcissism are examined in detail. The focus is on the characteristics and behavioral patterns that can occur in both the healthy and pathological spectrum. In addition, it is discussed what effects narcissistic traits can have on interpersonal relationships and how they manifest themselves in everyday life. Finally, possible treatment approaches and the need for a differentiated view of the topic are also highlighted in order to better understand the comprehensive spectrum of narcissism. Dealing with narcissism is not only important for psychologists and therapists, but also for each of us, as we can be confronted with narcissistic behaviors in various areas of life, be it in friendships, romantic relationships, or in the workplace. Understanding these dynamics can help build healthy relationships and avoid toxic interactions. Chapter 1: Healthy Narcissism. Features and Properties. Healthy narcissism refers to a form of self-esteem that allows individuals to develop a positive self-image and value themselves without drifting into exaggerated self-centeredness. People with healthy narcissism have a realistic assessment of their abilities and strengths, which allows them to pursue both personal and professional goals. Typical characteristics of healthy narcissism include self-awareness. Individuals experience strong but appropriate self-esteem that empowers them to acknowledge and appreciate their own abilities. Resilience. A healthy narcissistic attitude promotes the ability to cope with setbacks and recover from failure. Empathy. Healthy narcissists often show compassion for others and are able to perceive their feelings and needs, which helps them build strong interpersonal relationships. Motivation. These individuals are often intrinsically motivated to achieve personal goals without necessarily relying on the validation or admiration of others. Positive aspects. Healthy narcissism plays an indispensable role in personal development and social interaction. Positive aspects include increased performance. People with healthy narcissism are often more successful in their endeavors because their confidence and determination drive them to overcome challenges and show their abilities. Improved interpersonal relationships. Their balance between self-worth and empathy promotes healthy and supportive relationships, as they are able to respect and consider both their own needs and those of others. Healthy self-assertion. Healthy narcissists have the ability to stand up for themselves clearly and confidently, leading to higher levels of satisfaction and success in various areas of life. Significance in society. In today's society, which is often characterized by competition and achievement, healthy narcissism is crucial. It enables people to assert themselves in a challenging environment, develop their identity, and find personal fulfillment. It is important to find a balance so as not to slip into excessive narcissism, which can damage relationships and lead to isolation. Finally, it is imperative to recognize healthy narcissism as an important factor for personal growth and positive social interaction. In the following chapters, the pathological aspects of narcissism will be examined in more detail to provide a more comprehensive picture of the spectrum. Chapter 2: Clinical Narcissism. Definition and Characteristics. Clinical narcissism refers to a pathological form of narcissism that is often diagnosed in psychology as narcissistic personality disorder, (NPD). People with clinical narcissism exhibit a profound pattern of magnificence, characterized by an excessive need for admiration and a lack of empathy. Key features include exaggerated self-image. People with NPD often have an exaggerated sense of their own importance and see themselves as superior to others. Need for admiration. They constantly seek recognition and validation, which leads to a high level of dependence on external sources. Lack of empathy. Narcissists may have difficulty recognizing or addressing the feelings and needs of others, which severely affects their interpersonal relationships. Manipulative behavior. They often use others to their advantage, without regard for the impact their behavior could have on others. Diagnostic criteria. The diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder is usually made according to the criteria of the DSM-5, Diagnostics and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, which establishes the following characteristics: a profound pattern of magnificence in imagination and behavior, an excessive need for admiration, a feeling of personal speciality and uniqueness, excessive fantasies of success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, strong sensitivity to criticism and the tendency to reject it, lack of empathy and the inability to recognize the feelings of others, propensity to exploit others to achieve personal goals, frequent vanity or arrogant behavior. In order to diagnose NPD, these features must occur to a significant extent and severely affect the functional life and relationships of the affected person. Impact on the lives of those affected. People with clinical narcissism often experience significant difficulties in their interpersonal relationships. Due to their lack of empathy and manipulative behaviors, close relationships can suffer, and conflicts with friends, family members, and partners often arise. Narcissistic traits can also be problematic in the workplace, as teamwork and cooperation are impaired. These difficulties often lead to a constant feeling of dissatisfaction and inner emptiness, even when external successes are achieved. Another common feature of clinical narcissism is susceptibility to emotional crises. Despite their arrogant self-image, narcissistic people often have a fragile self-esteem that can easily be shaken by criticism or failure. These emotional crises can lead to aggressive or self-destructive behaviors. Clinical narcissism is a serious mental disorder that can significantly affect the lives of those affected and those around them. Unlike healthy narcissistic traits, NPD leads to significant suffering and deterioration of interpersonal relationships. It is crucial to expand the understanding of clinical narcissism in order to offer targeted therapeutic interventions to affected individuals and thus enable a better life. The following chapters will deal with the different manifestations within narcissism and examine their effects on daily life. Chapter 3: Grandiose Narcissism. Definition and Characteristics. Grandiose narcissism is a form of clinical narcissism characterized by a greatly exaggerated self-image, claims to dominance, and an excessive need for admiration. People with grandiose narcissism consider themselves extraordinary and often feel the center of attention. Typical features are conviction of one's own superiority. These people often believe that they are better, more talented, or more intelligent than others. Strong desire for admiration. They are constantly looking for validation and recognition from others, often seeking to be the center of attention. Arrogance and arrogance. Grandiose narcissistic people tend to be condescending or disrespectful to others they see as inferior. Lack of empathy. They are often unable to perceive and ignore the feelings and needs of others, or only poorly. Causes and development. The exact causes of grandiose narcissism are complex and multifactorial. Various factors can contribute to the development of these narcissistic traits. Genetic factors. there is evidence that genetic predispositions can increase the risk of developing narcissistic traits. Early childhood experiences, excessive indulgence or emotional neglect in childhood can promote narcissism. Children who are constantly confronted with exaggerated praise or unrealistic expectations can develop a distorted self-image. Cultural influences, societies that prioritize achievement and individual aspiration over collective values can also favor the emergence of grandiose narcissistic traits. Impact on interpersonal relationships. The manifestations of grandiose narcissism have a significant impact on interpersonal relationships. Individuals with these traits often experience the following challenges. Difficulties in relationships. The arrogance can cause them to have difficulty building sustainable and healthy relationships. Often, the circle of friends is limited to admirers or people who can elevate their status. Conflicts and misunderstandings. Their lack of empathy for the feelings and needs of others often leads to conflict. They may be easily hurt or irritable in response to criticism, leading to tension. Manipulative behavior. Grandiose narcissists often use manipulation tactics to satisfy their own needs, which undermines trust and loyalty. Grandiose narcissism is a profound form of narcissism characterized by an exaggerated self-image and a strong need for admiration. While these traits can provide short-term benefits, the long-term effects on interpersonal relationships are mostly negative. A better understanding of grandiose narcissism can help to recognize the dynamics of difficult relationships and, if necessary, to plan an appropriate intervention. In the next chapter, we will look at the vulnerable form of narcissism, which is different from grandiose narcissism, but also has a significant impact on behavior and interpersonal relationships. Chapter 4: Vulnerable Narcissism. Definition and characteristics. Vulnerable narcissism describes a less obvious but equally significant form of narcissism. In contrast to grandiose narcissism, which is characterized by an exaggerated self-esteem and claims to dominance, vulnerable narcissism is characterized by insecurities, sensitivity, and an intense fear of rejection or criticism. People with vulnerable narcissistic traits often show the following characteristics. Unstable self-esteem. Your self-image is precarious and dependent on validation from others. You may feel confident one moment and be plagued by self-doubt the next. Sensitivity to rejection. These people are often hypersensitive to criticism or perceived rejection. Even subtle negative feedback can evoke intense emotional responses. Need for special treatments. They often demand that their needs and wants be prioritized, which makes them vulnerable if these expectations are not met. Emotional drama. Vulnerable narcissists tend to be emotionally overreactive and often experience mood swings due to their fear of rejection or criticism. Causes and development. The development of vulnerable narcissism can be due to similar psychological and social factors as in grandiose narcissism. The most common causes include childhood experiences. Children who experience either too much criticism or too little real support and affirmation in childhood may be susceptible to vulnerable narcissism. Often it is parenting styles that are inconsistent or overly controlling. Internalization of failure. People who experience repeated failures or rejection may develop a hurt self-esteem that manifests itself in vulnerable narcissistic behavior. Comparison with others. These individuals tend to constantly compare themselves to others, leading to uncertainty and an increased need for external confirmation. Impact on interpersonal relationships. Vulnerable narcissism has a significant impact on interpersonal relationships. Some of the most common challenges include challenges in friendships and relationships. Excessive sensitivity to rejection can cause vulnerable narcissists to struggle to form close and trusting relationships. They often withdraw or show defensive behavior in personal relationships. Emotional stress. Their need for validation and constant fear of criticism can cause emotional exhaustion in partners and friends, which further strains relationships. Manipulation due to lack of self-esteem. To protect themselves from rejection, they can manipulate others, although this is often done unconsciously. These dynamic behaviors can lead them to ignore the needs of others. Vulnerable narcissism is a complex form of narcissism characterized by insecurity, sensitivity, and fragile self-esteem. These traits make vulnerable narcissists susceptible to emotional crises and significantly affect their relationships with others. Understanding this form of narcissism is crucial to addressing the emotional challenges that come with it. The next section will deal with cultural and group narcissism in order to better illuminate and understand the social dimensions of narcissism. Chapter 5: Cultural and Group Narcissism. Definition and Characteristics. Cultural and group narcissism refers to the overvaluation and excessive pride in one's own culture, ethnicity, or group, often accompanied by a sense of superiority over other cultures or groups. While individual narcissism is often focused on personal self-esteem, cultural and group narcissism is a collective form that occurs in the context of social identity and cultural belonging. Key features include superiority of one's own group. Members tend to assume that their culture or group is superior, better, or special, which can lead to an exaggerated view. Devaluation of other groups. This form of narcissism often leads to prejudice or stereotypes against other cultures or ethnic groups that are considered inferior. Strong sense of belonging. Members of a narcissistic group feel strongly connected to their identity and often reject dissenting opinions or identities. Causes and development. Cultural and group narcissism can be fostered by several factors, including social identity. People tend to identify with groups that share their own values and beliefs. This identity can lead to an increased sense of superiority. Cultural narratives. Societies that emphasize success, status, and power can foster narcissistic traits in their members. Historical narratives that strengthen pride in one's own culture can reinforce these dynamics. Conflicts and wars. In times of social or political tension, groups often develop a defensive attitude that leads to aggressive narcissism towards others in order to protect their own identity and integrity. Impact on society. Cultural and group narcissism has far-reaching social effects. Discrimination and prejudice. Overvaluing one's own group often leads to discrimination against other cultural or ethnic groups. This can come in the form of overt bias or subtle bias. Increasing social tensions. Group narcissism promotes the formation of us versus them mentalities, which can lead to conflict and tension between different groups or cultures. Inhibition of integration and diversity. An excessive focus on the superiority of one's own group can hinder integration efforts and undermine the exchange of ideas and cultures. Examples and manifestations. Cultural and group narcissism can be found in different forms. Nationalism. Exaggerated nationalist behavior can take the form of proudly stated claims of superiority that devalue other nations. Class or racial narcissism. In some societies, a person's worth is often determined by ethnicity or social class. Subcultural narcissism. In groups such as certain youth cultures, there can be a strong pride in one's own identity, which is associated with a rejection of all outside influences. Cultural and group narcissism is an important aspect of social behavior that needs to be considered at both the individual and collective levels. While identifying with one's own group can foster a sense of belonging, excessive narcissism can lead to discrimination, conflict, and social division. A better understanding of these dynamics is crucial to promote greater integration, empathy, and intercultural dialogue. In the following chapters, we will look at the underlying causes of narcissism and its impact on personal and professional relationships. Chapter 6: Causes of Narcissism. Genetic factors. Research shows that narcissism is influenced by both genetic and environmental factors. Some studies have found evidence that certain genetic predispositions can increase the risk of developing narcissistic traits. In particular, genetic predisposition can influence aspects of temperament and personality, such as temperament. People with a natural tendency to self-confidence and dominance may be more susceptible to narcissistic traits. Inheritance of personality traits. Certain traits, such as impulsivity or egocentricity, could occur frequently in families and thus increase the likelihood of narcissistic behavior. Environmental factors. Environmental factors play a crucial role in the development of narcissistic traits. The most important influencing factors include education. Education has a considerable influence on personality development. Different parenting styles can increase or decrease the risk of developing narcissism. Excessive pampering. Children who are overly praised, treated with special privileges, or never faced with consequences can develop inflated self-esteem that leads to narcissistic traits. Emotional neglect. Conversely, children who do not receive enough emotional support or recognition may develop a broken self-esteem, which is compensated for by narcissistic behaviors as a protective mechanism. Social and cultural influences. The social and cultural contexts in which an individual develops also have a strong influence on the development of narcissism. Societal norms. In cultures that place a strong emphasis on individualism, competition, and success, narcissism can be seen as a positive trait and thus encouraged rather than inhibited. Media. The influence of social media, which often propagates an overemphasis on self-presentation and outward success, contributes to the development of narcissistic behaviors as people learn to define themselves through likes and followers. Developmental processes in childhood. The experiences and learning processes in childhood are crucial for the later development of narcissistic traits. Some key aspects are comparison with peers. Children often compare themselves with their peers. An excessive need to be perceived as the best can lead to narcissistic behaviors. Identity formation. Early identity development is critical. Negativity makes children more susceptible to narcissistic reactions, while positive experiences can boost self-esteem. Psychological theories. There are various psychological theories that explain the development of narcissism. Among the best known are psychoanalytic theory. This theory suggests that narcissism can arise as a defense mechanism against self-esteem violations. Narcissists develop a grandiose self-image to deal with a deep inner insecurity. Social learning theory. This theory emphasizes the role of models and imitation. Children who observe narcissistic behavior in their environment are more likely to adopt these behaviors. The causes of narcissism are complex and diverse, with both genetic and environmental factors playing a crucial role. A better understanding of these factors is important in order to be able to develop targeted interventions to treat narcissistic behaviors. In the next chapter, we will examine the effects of narcissism in everyday life and highlight the special challenges that arise from narcissistic traits in different contexts. Chapter 7: Effects of Narcissism in Everyday Life. On a personal level. Relations. The impact of narcissism on personal relationships can be significant and complex. Narcissists can struggle in romantic relationships as well as friendships and family ties. The most common problems include lack of empathy. The pronounced lack of empathy can cause narcissistic individuals to ignore the needs and feelings of others. This can lead to misunderstandings and emotional injuries. Conflicts and tensions. Frequent power struggles and the tendency to manipulate can lead to relationships being marked by conflict and tension. Narcissists are also often vulnerable when their superiority is questioned, which can lead to emotional outbursts. Superficial attachments. Narcissists tend to use relationships to boost their own self-esteem, leading to superficial and short-term attachments. Genuine trust and deep emotional connections can be difficult to develop. Emotional health. Narcissists often experience emotional challenges that can affect both their mental health and overall well-being. The most common aspects include emotional instability. Many narcissists struggle with fluctuations in self-esteem, which depends on external validations. This can lead to anxiety, depression, and other mental health problems. Fear of rejection. The constant fear of criticism or rejection can lead to excessive sensitivity and defensive behavior, putting a significant strain on emotional relationships. On a professional level. Workplace dynamics. Narcissists can also cause a number of challenges in the workplace, both for themselves and for their colleagues. These include conflict and teamwork. The tendency to put their own needs above those of the team can lead to tension and conflict in work groups. This reduces the team spirit and cooperation. Manipulative behaviors. narcissists may tend to take advantage of or manipulate their colleagues to achieve their own goals. This could undermine team dynamics and weaken trust in the work environment. Impact on career progression. At the career level, narcissistic traits can have both positive and negative effects. Success through self-awareness. In some cases, self-awareness and the ability to present themselves can help narcissists take advantage of career opportunities and reach leadership positions. Professional setbacks. At the same time, the difficulties in dealing with colleagues and superiors can often lead to professional setbacks, especially when conflicts or mistrust arise. Impact on society. On a societal level, narcissism can have far-reaching effects. Group dynamics. Collective narcissistic attitudes within a community or culture can lead to division, discrimination, and prejudice. This can destabilize the social fabric of a society. Politics and leadership style. Political leaders with narcissistic traits often tend to use self-centered or manipulative tactics that can undermine trust in institutions and increase societal tensions. The effects of narcissism in everyday life are complex and affect personal, professional, and social levels. While narcissistic traits may seem beneficial in the short term, they often lead to long-term challenges and conflicts. A better understanding of these impacts is crucial to develop appropriate strategies for intervention and support for affected individuals. In the next chapter, we will discuss possible treatment approaches and strategies for dealing with narcissistic personalities in order to improve the quality of life of both those affected and their environment. Chapter 8: Treatment Approaches and Strategies for Dealing with Narcissism. Psychotherapeutic Interventions. Treating narcissism, especially for narcissistic personality disorder (NPD), can be challenging, but it often requires professional psychotherapeutic intervention. Some of the most common approaches include cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT). Cognitive behavioral therapy is a widely used method of treating NPD. The main goals of this form of therapy are questioning thought patterns. Narcissists learn to question their exaggerated self-perceptions and develop more realistic views of themselves and others. Developing empathy. CBT can help promote empathic skills by focusing on understanding and perceiving the feelings of others. Coping strategies. Those affected are given strategies to better deal with criticism, rejection, and the need for confirmation. Psychodynamic therapy. This form of therapy aims to identify the underlying emotional conflicts and needs of the narcissistic personality. Understanding childhood experiences. By exploring early relationships and their impact on self-esteem, a better understanding of one's narcissistic needs can be developed. Emotional growth. This form of therapy promotes emotional growth and the development of healthy relationships, which can help daffodils build more stable and fulfilling interpersonal bonds. Group therapy. Group therapy can be beneficial for people with narcissistic traits because they feedback from group members. Narcissists are given the opportunity to receive feedback from others and reflect on their behaviors in a safe space. Promoting empathy. Sharing with others who have similar challenges can promote the development of empathy and understanding. Psychoeducation. Education about narcissism can be helpful for both the affected persons and their relatives. Create awareness. A better understanding of the causes and effects of narcissism can help identify and address harmful behaviors. Strategies for dealing with them. Loved ones and friends can benefit from training on the best tools and strategies for dealing with narcissistic individuals, whether in terms of boundaries or communication. Self-help strategies. In addition to professional treatment approaches, self-help strategies can also contribute to improving one's own quality of life. These include reflection and self-confidence. Keep a diary. Keeping a diary can help to reflect on thoughts and feelings and to recognize patterns in one's own behavior. Mindfulness techniques. Mindfulness or meditation can help you become more aware of your emotions and reactions and promote transformative change. Get feedback. Openness to feedback. Being willing to accept feedback from others can help identify blind spots and work on personal development. Find conversation partners. Friends or mentors who can give honest, constructive feedback are important for growth. Treating narcissism requires a holistic approach that includes psychotherapeutic interventions, group therapy, psychoeducation, and self-help strategies. The road to change can be long and challenging, but people with narcissistic traits can learn to have healthier relationships and manage their emotional challenges. In the coming chapters, we will discuss the role of relationships with narcissistic personalities and the strategies that are important for loved ones and friends to understand the dynamics and set healthy boundaries. Chapter 9: Relationships with Narcissistic Persons. Dynamics in relationships. Relationships with narcissistic people are often characterized by specific dynamics that are strongly influenced by both the narcissistic person and their partners or relatives. These dynamics include idealization and devaluation. Narcissistic people often tend to have an idealization and evaluation scheme in their relationships. Idealization phase. At the beginning of a relationship, a narcissistic person may overly idealize their partner, showering them with praise and portraying them as particularly valuable or admirable. This often creates a strong connection. Devaluation phase. However, as soon as the narcissistic person does not see their needs met or experiences criticism, the relationship can quickly switch to a devaluation phase in which the partner is criticized, devalued, or even ignored. Control and manipulation. Narcissistic individuals often use controlling and manipulative tactics to enforce their needs. Gaslighting. This technique is used to question the partner's reality. Narcissists can try to make their partner believe they are wrong in order to secure their control. Emotional blackmail. Narcissists might work with guilt or emotional pressure to get their partners to do mostly what they want. Effects on the partner. The relationship with a narcissistic person can have a significant impact on the partner. Emotional exhaustion. Constant adaptation. The partner can adapt so much to the emotional fluctuations and needs of the narcissistic person that they neglect their own needs, leading to emotional exhaustion. Difficulty with one's own identity. The partner may feel like they are losing their own identity as they are constantly adapting to narcissistic behavior. Negative self-image. Self-doubt and insecurity. The constant criticism and devaluation by the narcissistic person can lead to a negative self-image and self-doubt in the partner. Isolation. Relationships with narcissistic people can cause partners to isolate themselves from friends and family to avoid conflict, which can increase loneliness. Strategies for dealing with narcissistic people. To overcome the challenges in a relationship with a narcissistic person, various strategies can be helpful. Set boundaries. Clear boundaries. It's important to set clear and consistent boundaries to protect your space and needs. Perseverance. Narcissists might try to test or exceed these boundaries. Steadfastness and adherence to the boundaries are crucial. Self-protection and self-care. Time for yourself. It is important to take time for yourself regularly to avoid emotional exhaustion and strengthen your identity in the relationship. Self-help groups. The exchange with others who have had similar experiences can help to validate one's own experience and find ways to cope. Communication. The iMessage model. Use phrases that express your own feelings and needs without attacking the other person. This can help avoid confrontations. Active listening. Listening to your partner seriously can be helpful in minimizing misunderstandings, even if communication is often complicated. The dynamics in relationships with narcissistic individuals are often complex and challenging. It's crucial to be aware of the potential negative effects and develop strategies for dealing with them and self-care. A better understanding of these dynamics can help set healthy boundaries and maintain one's emotional health. In the next chapter, we'll look at the challenge of recognizing narcissistic traits in yourself and how to work on developing a healthier, balanced personality. Chapter 10: Self-reflection and the recognition of narcissistic traits. The importance of self-reflection. Self-reflection is a crucial part of personal growth and emotional health. Especially for individuals who want to recognize that they have narcissistic traits, this process is essential. Through self-reflection, individuals can develop awareness of your own behavioral patterns. By critically questioning your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you can recognize potentially harmful patterns. Strive for real change. Self-reflection is the first step to working on your personality and promoting healthy relationships. Signs of narcissistic traits. There are various characteristics and behaviors that could indicate narcissistic tendencies. Some key signs include excessive need for attention and validation, constant search for praise, when you often long for validation from others and feel that you are only valuable if you are the center of attention. Sensitive reactions to criticism, when even small criticism is perceived as an attack and leads to defensive behavior or aggressive reactions. Lack of empathy. Difficulty putting yourself in the shoes of others, when you often have difficulty understanding the perspective or feelings of others and instead put your own needs first. Inability to take responsibility for one's own behavior. If one rarely admits mistakes or takes responsibility for one's own behavior, this could indicate narcissistic traits. Manipulative behaviors. Control over others. If you tend to manipulate others to impose your own wants and needs, this can be another sign of narcissistic tendencies. Abuse of relationships. When relationships are mainly used to elevate one's status or to gain personal gain. Steps to improve. If narcissistic traits are detected, several steps can be taken to improve and grow personally. Therapy search. Professional support. Finding a therapist or psychologist who specializes in personality disorders can help you better understand and work on the dynamics. Openness to feedback. It's important to be open to feedback and be willing to work on your own behaviors. Development of emotional intelligence. Practice empathy. Activities that promote empathy, such as volunteering or reading literature from the perspective of others, can help develop a deeper understanding of others' feelings. Mindfulness techniques. Practices such as meditation or mindfulness can help you become more aware of your emotions and reduce reactivity to external stimuli. Building healthy relationships. Honest communication. Communicating transparently with friends and family about one's feelings and needs can help develop deeper bonds. Set boundaries. Learning to set healthy boundaries and protect one's time and energy can improve the quality of relationships. Self-reflection and the recognition of narcissistic traits are essential steps on the way to a healthier self-image and better interpersonal relationships. By taking a critical look at yourself and being willing to work on your behaviors, you can create the foundation for personal growth and positive change. In the next chapter, we will look at specific challenges and techniques for improving empathy and interpersonal communication in narcissistic tendencies. We have reached the end of our audio book, Narcissism, A Profound Understanding. It is important to summarize the central findings of this journey and to focus on the complexity of narcissism. As we have learned, narcissism is not isolated. It is rarely a phenomenon in its own right, rather, it is often part of a larger, multi-layered psychological picture. Often, a variety of factors, including other personality disorders, emotional challenges, and life experiences, work together to influence how narcissism manifests itself. Every person is unique in their illness, and the interactions between narcissism and other psychological aspects create a spectrum that is extremely diverse. This dynamic can manifest itself in the different stages and aspects of narcissism, causing each case to carry individual characteristics. When we talk about narcissism, we often mention a range of behaviors and emotions that relate not only to the individual, but also to the relationships they have with others. It is essential to recognize this complexity and to accept that each person is unique in his or her path of suffering. We hope that through this audiobook, you have gained a deeper understanding of narcissism, not just as an isolated concept, but as part of an interactive and dynamic human experience. If you like this audiobook, we invite you to comment on it, share your thoughts and impressions, as well as spread the video with others. Your likes and shares help us spread the word about this important topic and reach more people who can benefit from this knowledge. Thank you for your attention and interest in this important topic. May the knowledge and understanding gained lead to more empathy and mindfulness in our relationships.